Suzanne's Paparazzi Jewelry, 24/7 shopping available. 160920 is the code. Show her some love, like she showed us.
Hey, welcome to Wednesday Night Sports Minute, brought to you by Coast to Coast Entertainment Network. I am hosting. I am Big B. Alongside me, I got the man, the myth, the legend behind the cameras, but he's going to join us today. Syrup Crispy Bacon, how's it going, bud?
Going good. How's everybody doing tonight?
I am doing great. And kitty corner for myself, underneath Chris, we got the Angels fan, James Gonzalez. How you doing, bud?
Just got off of work, long ass day, and somehow made it here in time to do the show. And interested to see what everybody talks about tonight.
Yeah, yep. We got some open forum topics and stuff like that. And then beneath me, we got John Elkhorn. How you doing, bud?
Just like James, it has been a long day. I have learned the hard way doing my job. If you wear the wrong shoes, you get as many blisters as Joe Montana has Super Bowl rings. But that's all good. Just happy to be here in Cleveland. Don't you freaking do it tomorrow, or you're getting a rant of the decade.
All right, we might get into. Well, we probably will get into some basketball, but I am going to hold off on the NBA talk right now because we got Callan supposed to be joining us. He's a big baseball guy, so we'll talk about the two big newses in basketball right now. Beal and Harden both opted out of some big deals there. James, what do you think, and where could you see them landing?
I think both should go to some contenders definitely, and you could just tell with James Harden after the playoff loss and Joel Embiid in his last conference saying, "Well, James Harden isn't what he used to be. He needs to be more aggressive." I think James Frey took that hard, and he's deciding basically to go off on his own now. And it's like I mentioned before, I think he should probably take a backseat role, but I think he's going to stay with the Sixers, honestly, and just try to work it out. Maybe not such a big deal, but I mean, he declined a whole, $47.3 million role. I can't believe he would do that, honestly, but I can't believe he honestly did that. And then Bradley Beal, I just think it's probably time he goes to a contender. I mean, he tried so many years in Washington with Wall, without Wall, with Russell Westbrook, with Porzingis. But it's time for him to go somewhere and go deep on a playoff run. Maybe take a little pay cut, and go on a real good contender, and maybe just not have to do much. Just spot up, shoot threes, drive and kick, whatever he can do. So I'm interested to see where he goes. But for me, and all the news basically is James Harden will stay in Phoenix, but you never know. You never know what's going to happen, man. In this NBA free agency, I always mention, hey, that's more where
James froze, I think, a little bit, but you back, James?
Yeah, I guess I'm back.
Right. Yeah. Finish up your talk.
No, I just mentioned the free agency, the summer. It's always more exciting than the regular season because the possibilities of your team, joining up together, superstars or young guns getting together like Oklahoma City through the draft. It really is more exciting than the regular season, I think, these summer months, because then you get to see later on in July, you get to see the summer league in Las Vegas and those first rookies play, and guys that don't really have a chance. So I'll definitely be watching for all of that.
Yeah. And Chris is chiming in saying, "Hi guys, how's it going, Chrissy?" John, what do you think? I know you kind of been waiting to rant on your Cavs, but let's talk about Harden Beal first.
I think, and this could be wrong, this is probably something he didn't want to do in Brooklyn. I think this may have been an opportunity, like James said, that he took it to heart. I think I'm frozen, so give me just a second. Am I still frozen?
No, you're good.
No, we can hear you.
I think that James Harden took to heart, but I also think that he knows that he's hungry and beyond ready to win a championship. It failed in Brooklyn, and I guarantee with all the money I'll make for the rest of my life, it's not gonna work in Philly. The only Philly to know is relevant is when Nick Foles scored their receiving touchdown in the Super Bowl to beat Tom Brady. Like, let's be honest, that's just what it is. I just don't think they can get some players or whatever. But Harden and Embiid, no matter how good a player in their skill set is, personality-wise, I just don't think it's going to work. Harden is a great shooter. He can score 30-plus a night. That's great. But you also have Embiid, who can do the exact same thing. So how do you combine that together with the shooting intensity of Embiid and the physicality of Embiid and what, like you said, like I agree, James Harden's not as physical as he used to be. But for Bradley Beal, I mean, I don't blame him. The last time a Washington team was somewhat relevant was RG3's rookie year when they were 2 games away from the Super Bowl. So I just think, if we're being honest, they haven't been relevant. John Wall has been literally utter trash. He has been irrelevant. He has been overrated. He has been consistently injured. I just want to call it like it is. You can talk about him all you want. Just because the more you talk about somebody, that doesn't make him any better. So I think it's good for him that he needs to go to a contender that can help necessarily elevate his numbers, but prove that, hey, maybe on the right team, not necessarily like a Golden State Kevin Durant, but on the right team, he can prove the player that we believe that he can be. But for Harden and Philly, I don't know where you go from here, because he's going to stay. But who do you compliment that third star? Jimmy Butler didn't want to do it. He didn't want to play. It didn't work. And so I don't know what you do, because they've had 4 seasons in their championship window. This is like their last inch of the hair of, in that famous childhood, but they're on their hair of their chinny chin chance of trying to get to an NBA Finals and win it, because you had 4 or 5 seasons. It's time to put up or shut up.
Yeah. And welcoming Colin from the moon, it looks like. I mean,
somewhere. I don't know where I'm at, honestly.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
No problem, Callan. So we're just talking about Beal and Harden opting out of their big deals with their teams. I know you're not a big basketball guy, but what do you think this means for them two and where they might end up?
I mean, honestly, it's always an interesting time when this time of the year rolls around, when you get to, near July 1st and guys begin, trades start being made, guys start opting in, opting out, what have you. And I think more so that with Bradley Beal is what I've seen, though, from the reports is that he may go back to Washington. He may test the free agency waters. And I think he kind of wants to be that guy maybe who is, stays loyal to that Wizards organization. This is a team who we had seen in the postseason a couple times here and there, but nothing really great has come to the Wizards, the Bullets, what have you, since that title they won in '78 over Seattle. And then with James Harden, though, guys, and, I've been kind of thinking about Harden the past, few times, having gone back and listened to some old podcasts and old shows that we had done either on here or other platforms recently. And just of how skeptical I've been about James Harden post his time in Houston with, going to Brooklyn and now going to Philadelphia. And I'm probably the lone man on the island who has said that I did not truly 100% think that the experiment of Kyrie and Harden and Simmons and, all these star players going and, meeting up in Brooklyn and playing with the Nets was going to work, though. Then Harden going to Philadelphia, I didn't think it was going to work there either. Now, again, maybe Doc Rivers can, maybe be that guy who helps out James Harden. But I think just right now, though, this is kind of begin the NBA offseason with Harden, with Beal, with some of the trades made with the Spurs and Hawks today, and some other guys opting in or opting out of their contracts. But it will be a very interesting, I'd say, 48 hours, and then come July 1st, who knows what happens come Friday.
Yeah, no doubt. Chris,
Mind you, who's the head coach again? Doc
Rivers.
Exactly. That's why they're not going to do anything, because Doc Rivers is meant for choking, and it's just not going to happen. You're 3-1, 3-1. I mean, he's had more 3-1s than, frankly, any of us have had. So it's not going
All
to
right,
work.
Chris, what about your thoughts on the
Yeah,
guys opting out?
I mean, they want to go play somewhere else. That they can, but it's kind of frustrating when you haven't been successful in the playoffs. And free agency I think starts tomorrow. It's gonna it's tricky to figure out which players are gonna be good on your team until they actually play. So
Yeah. No, for me, I mean, that's a hefty amount of money to opt out of. Harden, although I was reading that he wants to structure his deal to where it's team friendly, and it gives them options to go elsewhere and get some players. So we'll see how that works out if he goes back there. Beal, I mean, he's been linked to a lot of teams, even back to the Wizards. So, like Colin said, next 48 hours once free agency starts, it's going to be a big, Christmas day for NBA fans. It's kind of like the NFL, but the NFL has that tampering period, which to me makes no sense. I don't know. So,
Well, to
we'll
me,
see.
and I could be wrong. I think I'm not comparing Kyrie to Bill declining their player option, but I think if Kyrie or a player does this with their player option, that may give a good idea to some of the other players to what they may do, considering that the grass may not be greener on the other side.
And not just that, you also have to wonder about the teams. Forget the players for a second, but what about where teams are at with their salary cap issues? Like, both teams in LA right now, maybe, Miami or other teams though. And I think with Harden, perhaps, restructuring the deal to make it more Sixers friendly, perhaps, where it's more team friendly. That's, I think, one thing that we probably don't take a lot into consideration, though, fellas, is the player movement's one thing, but what about who's going to be aggressive because of their cap issues, or if it is, in fact, waiving players to cut the salary or trading away salary? Again, I think I'm, a little perplexed about the Spurs dealing away, Murray to the Hawks for an aging veteran in Danilo Gallinari, and I think draft picks also went that way. So, not just player movement, guys, but then want us to wonder about how aggressive teams will be, because where's their cap at more than anything else as well.
Well, I think when you look at Embiid is not a winner. I'm sorry, folks. We can talk about how physical and great he is. He's not a winner. Doc Rivers is not a winner. James Harden is not a winner. And so I just don't think, like you said, with any experience, like Washington, they're not a winner. So I don't think anything you put in Philly, regardless, like the cap is not like the NFL, or depending on who's the owner, the cap is kind of crap. The NBA, I think the cap is a little bit different. I'm not completely know how that works. But Doc Rivers is not a winner. Joel Embiid is not a winner. James Harden is one of the winners. So I don't think adding one better player than Kyrie is magically going to solve everything when you have guys that consistently, no matter if you don't want to hear it, those guys do not play winning basketball.
Yeah. No, you guys are right. So, Callan brought up the deal today. The Hawks trading away their forward. Not even going to try to pronounce his last name.
Danilo Gallinari.
Thank you. To the Spurs, and the Spurs are getting 3 first-round picks, 2023, 2025, 2027, and the option, as I'm reading it, to swap picks in 2026. So I'm guessing, depending on the draft class, if the Hawks are drafting high, the Spurs are going to take it if there's a stud out there. So what do you guys, Callie kind of already started. What's your initial thoughts on that, or more on that trade that you just brought up?
I really wonder what the blueprint is now in San Antonio post, the guys that we grew up watching in Parker and with Tim Duncan and Manu Ginobili, and seeing the Spurs have that 20-year, what was it, 20-year run of them making the postseason? It was some insane number like that. It was felt like 20 years of them making the postseason. And the first time that we really saw a Spurs team struggle under Greg Popovich was very surprising. Yep. But I really wonder what the game plan is now, because you dealt away Murray, who I really felt like was coming into his own last season, to Atlanta for as kind of a still a very good player, but still like an aging vet in Gallinari. I know he's a good 3-point shooter, but I think with what's coming in tow, though, with the 3 draft picks, though, too, 23, 25, 27, the option to swap, that maybe helps. But now it's almost like, who on the Spurs, though, is worth watching on television if they're on national TV? Is it really going to be LaMarcus Aldridge or some aging veteran like that, perhaps? But I do think that the Spurs have a game plan in place, but just more, to me, it's more of a head scratcher that he would deal away kind of like a key cog, a cornerstone of your team last season to Atlanta, who was I think is turning a corner here with Trae Young and John Collins, and then now adding in Murray into the equation. Atlanta's getting better. The Spurs, I'm a little perplexed more so about this move made today with them dealing away Murray. Again, I get the draft pick. The draft pick's coming the way of SA, but I still don't quite understand why the move was made, though, mainly from the Spurs side of things more than Atlanta side of things.
All right. James, how about you? What do you think on the Spurs trade?
Yeah, like Callan mentioned, it's kind of a mystery what's going on. All I can think of through DeJounte Murray is that maybe he doesn't fit Pop's system. That's
Possibly.
all I could think it could be.
Well, how much longer is Pop going to be there, though?
That's the thing, too.
That's the other thing.
Yeah, there's just a lot of questions right now with the Spurs getting the Hornets' first-round pick in this trade. They're hoping maybe that will be a good pick, top 16 protected. But then you get the Hawks 2025, 2027, and the option to swap in 2026.
Yep.
But it doesn't look like the Hawks are going to be bad anytime soon. So that kind of doesn't make sense to me. By the way, the Spurs unbelievably made 22 consecutive playoff appearances. It ended in 2020 so 98 to 2019. And I never really appreciated them. And looking at how they are now, I don't think they ever get on national TV, honestly. Yeah. I don't remember the last time the Spurs were. But I always remember them growing up as, 3 great guys. And then now they just have Pop. And then I was hoping Becky Hammond would have, took the reins.
A lot of people are hoping Becky
all
Hammond.
In favor, meaning adjourned.
But, it's a mystery of what's going on there. But the GM has a proven record there, R.C. Buford, and maybe he knows something that we don't, and maybe it's going to be a process. It's going to be 2 or 3 year process where they're just going to try to get better through the draft and through some trades and absorb some veteran players. But other from that, like Callum mentioned, it's kind of a head scratcher in San Antonio right now.
No, and Isaiah's saying, "What's up, fellas?" And just so we know, Becky Hammond didn't go to a scrub team. I mean, she did go to the Las Vegas Aces. Something she went to Las Vegas Raiders, but we won't get into that one. John, what do you think about the trade?
The Spurs are. I don't want to use this word, so I'm not going to because we don't use those kind of words anymore. But they're stupid. Because at some point you got to know that Popovich is going to retire. I believe he's going to retire after this year. If we're being honest, just say it like it is. He should have retired 3 or 4 years ago. I mean, this team has been washed for a very long time. If we're being honest, I could be wrong. After the Kawhi Leonard drama when he left to go to LA, Toronto. This team's been washed, and so I think he had a great run. And sometimes some coaches that have a lot of success, they overstay their welcome. And I think that's what happened with Popovich and the Spurs. And so this trade doesn't make any sense. I mean, I think what would be interesting, like you said, to have Becky Hammond, not because she's a female coach, but I think it'd be a really interesting opportunity to see somebody from a different perspective and a different opportunity.
No, John, I think you nailed it. So, Chris, what about you? What do you think about this NBA trade? You're on mute, bud.
It's interesting. Basketball has, different rules when it comes to contracts. So it's going to be interesting how it plays out. But I don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean, for me, it's, like Colin said, you're trading an aging vet and 3 first-round picks for, an all-star, yeah. He might fit in, might boost to the team. And the Spurs, on the other hand, right now they got 3 unknowns, possibly 4 unknown picks, because you don't know where you're going to be drafted at, who's going to be out there. Maybe I granted somebody probably knows what the draft class is going to kind of look like, so they probably gauged on that. So,
But here's the thing, though. I think, and this is the same thing I think with my Cavs, was that their identity was in Tony Parker and
yep.
all those guys, Ginobili, and I think and those were great players. But it's been how many seasons since those guys retired? And I think at some point you really need to start focusing on the future outside of Greg Popovich. And just like with the Cavs, it was always LeBron, LeBron, LeBron. We don't have LeBron, and now you're about to trade Colin Sexton. So I think at some point it'll be interesting to see their kind of new identity because Popovich, I think, got hired. Was it the late 90s? Was it early 2000s? I think
I think he got hired in '99.
Yeah.
99. So it's been the last time he got hired in 99 when Blockbuster was somehow still relevant, and now Roblox is dead. So it tells you how long he's been around. But at some point, I mean, it just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
James,
All right, so
James, I see your gears running. I think Pop got hired in '94 as the GM. Then he took the head coaching job in '99. I think
Sheesh. So he's been there for
'96. So
The
so-
one year he took over, the 1 year that David Robinson got hurt, and they pretty much tanked to get Tim Duncan,
yeah.
and they went on from there.
So he got
bad.
hired when my parents met in '96, which is 10 years after the A's lost championship.
I was
Wow.
2 years old. So there you go.
Yeah. All right, so let's move to the frozen ice. Callan, I know this is kind of your sport. Avalanche took the series 4-2, I believe it was. Little controversy towards the end there of one of the games. People are pointing out that the Avs had 6 guys on the ice when they scored a game-winning goal. So, Cal, we'll start with you. What's your thoughts on the series, and what's your thoughts, bud?
I mean, I picked Colorado from the get-go. I mean, having seen what this team has been capable of the past couple years, and there was a quote that came out the night that they clinched the cup, and it was, I think Nathan McKinnon had said something around this time last year where he was kind of getting fed up. He had been with the Avalanche for 9 years, I think, and he said, "I haven't won, insert your favorite word here."
Yeah.
And then he wins the Stanley Cup, obviously. But Colorado this season, they were a team that basically they had no flaws whatsoever. Like, it almost looked like they could do no wrong this season. With their scoring depth, their goaltending play, Darcy Kemper, Pavel Francouz, holding down the fort. And then obviously all the guys that they had on, up front between Cale Makar winning Conn Smythe Trophy for the playoff MVP, and Nazem Kadri, who had to overcome a lot of obstacles in the postseason, and then the kids, that scoring line of McKinnon and Gabriel Landeskog, Mikko Rantanen, those 3 guys who've been together for so long. Like I said, I think a while back, maybe on Ison or even here on Coast to Coast, is that there was this stigma kind of in a way, much like Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, and Jason Tatum in Boston. Oh, you have to trade these guys. Yeah, they're great guys, but they can't coexist and play well together. And that was almost the same narrative with the Avalanche, I'd say, between Landeskog and Rantanen and Nathan McKinnon. They could, they're great guys, but they can't win together. And this has been building, though, I'd say the past 5, 6, 7 seasons, about taking those L's, early on, though, and building something great. Then, okay, get into the playoffs now, round 1 exit, round 2, round 3, and then obviously you overcome that. But, I'm very happy for Colorado, though. 21-year wait of them winning the Stanley Cup. I think they're the only team, I want to say, and I might be wrong, though, the only team who's made the Cup final and won all, all their appearances. They're 3-0 now when it comes down to playing in the Cup final in their franchise history. And if there's anyone else I feel good for, it's Joe Sakic, the GM of the team, who basically, built this team up from square one. And seeing his vision come to light, though, and what he's been able to do up there. Obviously, he won 2 cups, though, as a player with Colorado in 96 and then in 01 and 02. But I also don't want to discount what the Tampa Bay Lightning were trying to do. And what that was, completing a three-peat for the first time in the modern salary cap era. And I think John Cooper, guys, though Coop probably gets a bad rap, though, because of how he goes after the refs and how he's not really approachable to the media. But John Cooper and Pat Maroon, I think, said it best, though, is that we really did not know how beat up, banged up, chewed up, and spit out that Lightning team was, though, because of the wear and tear that hockey is come playoff time. And I think I sent you guys the list of all the guys who were hurt and playing through injury on the Lightning, between Braden Point having, the torn quad in the first round of the playoffs against the Maple Leafs, and Anthony Cirelli playing through an AC joint sprain, and guys who had torn meniscuses or fractured foot bones. Valeri Nichushkin of the Avalanche played through a severely injured foot in Game 6. He had to have someone help put his skate on because his foot was in that much pain. He still plays 23 minutes and change in Game 6, though. But, Tampa, I know that a lot of people were rooting against Tampa because they didn't want the three-peat. But I do think, though, that you have to give them some type of respect, though, because we have not seen, though, guys, in our lifetime, a team go for 3 straight Stanley Cups since the Islanders did it back in the 80s, and then you had the Rangers and the Oilers do it way back when with Gretzky and teams like that, though. And they were trying something, guys, that's just so hard to do. And having seen the Sockers play here in San Diego, at least, and they've won back-to-back indoor soccer titles. But then you think about them, though, guys, back in the 80s and 70s, winning 10 times in 11 seasons, 5 in a row, losing 5 in a row. You just don't really see how beat up these guys are, though, when they're playing games with gauze and tape and taped up knees and, taped up ankles and, stitches in place, though. So I give a lot of respect, though, to the Lightning, again, trying to do something that was not done, though. But for the Avalanche, though, again, they were basically, I think, everyone, I think they were the first team in quite a while who was the preseason favorite on the betting lines to win the Stanley Cup. And they went wire to wire this year. And you know what? It was a very great postseason, though, too. Not just because, not with Colorado winning it, though, but, seeing Carolina do well this year and the Rangers, them overcoming a couple of deficits in their reign. And they really weren't picked to be there either. And neither was Carolina. Florida, I know, bombed out in round 2, though. But, kind of again, seeing some fresh faces get in there, like the Panthers and the Lightning going back for a third, for a three-peat. The Bruins getting back there, the Kings getting back there for the first time in quite a while, the Oilers again, and the Flames, and it's good, though, again, seeing a lot of these other markets getting in, though. But all around, though, again, props and respect to Colorado again. 21-year wait's finally over, and it would not surprise me if they're the favorite maybe going in the next season. But again, there's a lot of question marks maybe with both of those teams right now with free agency and stuff like that. But certainly they'll do whatever it takes to get that core together. And again, props and again, congrats to all the great people in Denver for their first cup in 21 seasons. Unbelievable.
Yeah, no doubt. I know Minnesota will be waiting for that ring to come in the mail because Kepler was a Wild for a while. So, James, what do you think?
Kevin Fiala to Los Angeles too. Yikes.
So, James, what did you think of the hockey? If you caught any of it?
Yeah, no, I definitely did whatever I could.
Nope.
All right. His computer didn't want to talk hockey. So, John, let's go to you. What is your take on the finals for the hockey?
In the famous words of Stephen A. Smith, who has a worse hairline than Peyton Manning, didn't I tell you? Didn't I freaking tell you? Tampa Bay's not gonna. I didn't know anything about hockey. I'm trying to learn hockey in general, so I don't know a lot about it. But I am glad Colorado won it. It is about time. It's been early 2000s or so, and to see them, I think right after the Stanley Cup when they won, they part of the bottom of the trophy got chipped because they were so excited. And frankly, I don't blame them. This is your first championship, and especially a lot of these guys. I don't know if they were alive or barely alive when they last won it. So,
2001.
Congrats to them. I mean, Tampa. Yeah, it's hard to go with three-peat. I tried to tell you, just like with the Chiefs in football and other teams in basketball, it is really hard to get a three-peat, and it's not as easy as they made it seem. But hey, Colorado won it, and didn't I tell you? Unlike Stephen A. Smith and Peyton Manning's hairline.
All right, James. Let's try take 2 here on your hockey take.
I don't know what happened. Yeah, they went 56-19. Again, the preseason favorites. You kind of realized after they defeated the Oilers that they were probably going to win. I think they were stronger than anybody in the East that they could match up with, honestly. Yeah, the future is uncertain, but at least you get one under the head coach who's been there since 2016, 2017. And I was looking, I think sometime in the third period, they had the graphic of saying, well, their first year with that coach, Jared Bednar, that they didn't qualify for the playoffs the first year, but then each year it was a first round exit, second round exit, and then to finally put it all together, no matter what sport it is, it's a great feeling. And then, to hoist the heaviest trophy in all the sports up like that must be a great feeling. The city of Denver really hasn't had a lot of winning since 2015, so I guess this must feel good for that area. And hockey has always been a great thing there. I was surprised to find out their first year they won the Stanley Cup. I didn't know that, and it just shows you, Denver's a hockey town. The Lightning, hey, I was really going for them. I really wanted to see a three-peat, but in the end, Colorado was just too strong. That there was one game I remember. I don't know if it was second or third. I think it was the third round, the closing game. Again, against
Carolina,
Edmonton, and I think they had 6 players each score a goal, if I'm not mistaken. But that just shows you how deep they were, and no one was gonna beat them this year.
All right, Chris, how about you and your thoughts on the finals?
No, the finals were good. Congratulations to the Avalanche on winning the Stanley Cup. I was kind of hoping, Tampa would win it just to see a three-peat. I know it's hard to win any championship. It's hard to win 2 championships, but it's really hard to win 3. So I kind of wanted to see that happen. So, but it didn't. I think they'll be back next year. Not sure if they'll win it, but
yeah, no, I definitely. I mean, if Tampa would have three-peated, great. If not, great.
Exactly.
I mean, playoff hockey's probably one of the best or playoffs to watch. I know last year's NFL playoffs were pretty good, but it just seems like everybody ramps it up in playoff hockey. And if hockey could be played like playoff hockey every game, I think it would be the number one sport. So, but
not just that, by the way, congrats to Stan Kroenke, Super Bowl, National Lacrosse League Championship, and a Stanley Cup all in the same year.
Yeah. And there was an Avalanche player too that was on the verge of becoming the first guy to lose 3 straight finals.
Corey Perry of the Lightning.
Lightning. And he did.
3 straight Stanley Cup final appearances, 3 straight losses. First time
ever.
That's
who it was. I thought they were talking about a guy in the Avalanche. Okay.
Yeah,
no,
Dallas,
he was with
Dallas,
the Stars,
Montreal, and Tampa Bay.
Okay, 3 in a row. Well, that kind of sucks for him, I guess. So, but before we move on, quick question: what title do you guys think is the hardest to get? This was on a Facebook post I saw a few weeks ago. So, James, I'll start with you. What do you think is the hardest title to get?
I think just because it's more players, I think the Super Bowl trophy, because, one man can really not do it alone. And you can see, a key injury to a real big player on your team just makes your chances really less. Okay. But in other sports, someone can really step up. In baseball, someone who's been dying to start can start and fill in for whoever gets hurt. So I just think, especially with the way football is, it's the hardest sport to stay healthy in. There's always you're going to have injuries all the time. So I would say Super Bowl trophy, but then I think the Stanley Cup would be right there near second.
Yeah, Chris, how about you? The toughest title to get?
I'd kind of reverse that. I mean, I like football, but I would think hockey would be harder. I mean, you got more playoff rounds. It's a little longer season than NFL, and yeah, you have more time to recover from injuries.
Yeah.
You're almost playing every night or every other night.
Okay. John, how about you? What do you think is the hardest title to go after?
You know, obviously I'm biased, so there's no debate about that. For me, I love the NFL. It's my favorite sport of all time. But honestly, I have to say hockey. I understand the level of how difficult it is in the NFL, but if one player misses one throw, then it changes everything. Which versus like hockey, where it's more physical. I mean, guys get their teeth knocked out. Guys probably look like butt-tooth Becky or Bertha Butt. So I mean, you just never know on any given night. But I think hockey and football is a close second because again, as you've seen with one player goes out, especially the quarterback, you're kind of screwed at that point. So I would have to say hockey and football, in my opinion, are at least almost tied.
All right. Callan, how about you?
No, I'm on the Stanley Cup bandwagon. I mean, John said it best. I think Chris said it best. James even said it best, though, too. But it's just the length of play. You have to win 16 games to win what has already been called the hardest trophy to win in professional sports is the Stanley Cup. And it's also of, like Brandon said, though, it's just the intensity gets turned up past 10 when the playoffs roll around, especially if you get, a rivalry game. Like, for example, if you get LA versus Anaheim, you get New York playing New York maybe, or Pittsburgh playing Washington. You know that there's already, bad blood there, but then it gets, spilled over because it is playoff hockey. But it's mainly just, I think, because of the number of games you have to play. And to Chris's point, though, you're playing every other night. You play one game, you get 1 day off to catch your breath, then you have to play game 2 the following day. Then you have to go and travel and then play games 3 and 4 on the road. And I think there's just, more factors there. And I think that you guys have heard the stories, though, about, not just guys on Colorado or Tampa Bay, but guys who have played for the Cup who play through a lot of just, insane injuries. Again, Braden Point playing through a torn quad for the entire playoff run for Tampa Bay. Valerian Nichushkin playing through a, very severely injured foot, though, and that guys are able to somehow, some way block out that pain and play, a game where you're literally skating on, centimeter wide knives, basically, and you're out there pounding each other to put a piece of rubber into a net for 3 minutes of for 3 periods that are 20 minutes long, though, and then the consistent hitting into the boards or open ice hits. Guys played through have played through concussions. To John's point again about missing teeth or sprained shoulders, torn ACLs or MCLs, though, and guys can just somehow, some way get through that. I mean, that's what I think just makes the Stanley Cup that much harder to win, because it's the ultimate price that these guys want to pay to. The ultimate price you want to pay to be the number one team in the entire sport for the whole year.
Yeah, for me, I mean, it's tough. I think, well, being a Minnesota fan, they're all tough to get, so. But I think the Super Bowl, just because it's one game each playoff series, it's just one. So I think that's tough. But, I got to agree with you guys. I think you definitely have to say hockey. I think hockey is by far the hardest. It's been said it's the hardest. And like, Callan posted, there was like how many guys came out and played hurt for Colorado, I think it was, or Tampa.
And Tampa Bay, I think, had like 8 or 9 guys who were just trying to get through the game.
Yeah, exactly. So I definitely would go hockey. I mean, just because it's that tough. So, but let's move on to MLB. Callan, why don't you give us a little update on your Padres?
I'm very surprised that we're even still able to win games right now. Again, I think everyone saw Manny Machado's injury last Sunday in Colorado, wrenching his ankle. And the fact that he is, for one, not on the IL, but maybe coming back this week against the Dodgers in Los Angeles for probably one of the more critical series of the season against, the big bad boys in blue up there in LA. And for the Padres to be able to hold the fort down right now while Machado's been out, though, has been stellar, because their pitching, I think, has kept them in games, minus yesterday's game where they blew a 6-0 lead to Arizona and lost 7-6. but they were able to come back and win today, though, 4-0 over Arizona. Things are still going good considering. With all factors considered, though, guys, without Tatis and without Manny Machado recently, that the Padres have kept things going here. And it's mainly been Jurickson Profar, it's been Jay Cronenworth, and it's been Mike Clevenger today, actually throwing 6 innings and 6 innings, 1 hit, no runs given up, though. And to still be a game and a half out of first place, though, when really, when I saw Manny's injury last Sunday, I really thought this could get bad because without having Tatis and then not having Machado, that probably would have sank a Padres club maybe a year or two ago of not having, your 2 bona fide leaders, being available. But, the starting pitching, I think, despite all the changes that they've been making, though, with, guys with COVID, guys being injured or whatnot, and that they've kept this together. Yu Darvish has looked very good this season. Joe Musgrove was off to a great start this year. I'm still very iffy on Blake Snell, though. I hope he really turns the corner. But, man, he's 0-5 right now, and he threw, I think, a lot better against Philadelphia. But he had that 1 inning, though, where it just broke his back, sadly, and he let in 3 runs that day. And even the Padre bullpen has done pretty well again, minus the game on Tuesday, where, again, they kind of let a 6-0 lead go by the wayside. But, again, they haven't played well historically in Phoenix, though. But they got a split, though, that series, though. But I still just want to see the lineup kind of produce more. And I think the guy I look at, or 2 guys I look at mainly, is Luke Voit and Eric Hosmer. And, Eric Hosmer has declined, sadly, and it's just becoming more and more of a clown show, sadly. And I really hate to say that about Hosmer, because this guy, to me, as a lifelong born and raised San Diegan and lifelong Padre fan, was really the first free agent big name who actually looked at the Padres and said, you know what, I'll go and sign there. Then, of course, Manny Machado comes over, Tatis comes over. But Hosmer has been on a decline, and it's just gotten, I think, worse, though. And I think magnified, though, mainly by his defensive lapses, as he had on Tuesday, where he inadvertently makes a great diving play with a potential winning run on second, and he inadvertently throws the ball to a unmanned second base bag, where CJ Abrams was blocked out by the runner, and the game-winning run came in and scored, though, where he could have, ate the play, maybe kept the bases loaded, though. And then, of course, his bat hasn't really been going. He's had, a few hits here and there, though, but he's been striking out way too much, chasing pitches in the dirt, though, and whatnot. And obviously, Luke Voit is kind of, homer or strikeout, sadly. But, I think he's turned a corner as well, though. But in a nutshell, though, I'm very proud, though, that this has been a team, though. And I think, though, guys, a lot of this goes to Bob Melvin. And I think a lot of people have said that about Bo Mel in his time, though, that, hey, when things kind of get tough, though, he's that steady hand, though, let's not get too high, too low, get down on ourselves, though, just keep playing the game, though. And to me, it's been refreshing having a manager like Bob Melvin here in San Diego. I think back to the days of Bruce Bochy and, how the Padres were, in the late 90s and in the mid 2000s, though. But then you sit through, and even Buddy Black was that way too. I love when Buddy Black was here till he got canned in the middle part of 2015. But then having to, sit through Andy Green and Pat Murphy and Jace Tingler these past, I'd say 5 to 6 seasons, and just not having a bona fide established leader is what is helping this Padre ball club. And I have heard some people say, maybe Bo Mel should get manager of the year. Maybe not. I think it's not really warranted for him right now, because I think anybody who's a veteran manager would be able to come in here and run a team that has Tatis and Machado and Myers and Hosmer and those guys on it, though. But Bo Mel, I think it's a lot of credit, though, as to why the Padres are where they are right now. So certainly things are looking good so far. I hope that they can keep this going, and I look forward more so to seeing Machado coming back, hopefully by week's end. And also, I think what I had gathered, too, is that Tatis could be back swinging a bat, though, within the next 2 weeks, I think Person Reports put out on Tuesday. So, for them to kind of, be playing some good ball here, I think they're 46-31 now, and doing a lot of this, though, without Tatis for the bulk of the year, then missing Manny for over a week now. A lot of credit, I think, goes to the Padres, and also definitely a lot of credit, though, to Bob Melvin, too, who, again, guys, as we know, he missed time for prostate surgery, and he had COVID as well this season. So, again, big ups to Bo Mel for doing a great job so far down here in San Diego.
Who's the Padres all-star in your eyes right now?
Man, there's at least 2, maybe 3 that I can think of. Other than Machado, I think he's led the way in voting. I think you have to go with Joe Musgrove and Taylor Rogers. Those are my other two picks right now because Rogers, along with Josh Hader, has been a very, very consistent closer. Yeah, he had a blown save yesterday. And then I think Joe Musgrove warrants consideration along with Tony Gonsolin. Those would be my 1A, 1B picks to start the All-Star game in Los Angeles this year because Joe and Tony have been on a I would even say Tyler Anderson. Those three guys have been absolutely on fire to start this season. I think they've only lost 1 or 2 combined starts this year. I think Joe was like 8 or 9 or 0 on the season. Gonson's still like 9 or 0. Anderson's 9-1 on the season. So I think those are my 3 guys right now. I think it would have to be Musgrove, Rogers, and for sure Machado, hopefully starting at third base. But those would be my 3 right now for the Padres.
Okay. John, I know you're you're a Padre guy. You're just learning the game of baseball. So what's your thoughts on the Padres right now?
Before that, I was learning to hit trash cans, and for some reason, the Astros went into my DMs and they're like, "You'd be perfect for our third string starting pitcher." But that's neither here nor there. No, I said this before the season started. I think with Tatis being out for an unknown certain amount of time, we're gonna have to get a strong start early on because if we don't, the season's practically over. And I think the MVP so far is Bob Melvin. I know you can't do that because he's not a player. But like you said, when you've been sick, when you've dealt with COVID, when you've dealt with other things outside of the game of sports, I think we've seen this so many times in baseball, football, basketball. I imagine in indoor soccer at some point, and hockey, where it's easy for a GM or a head coach to literally spaz out and be, "Oh my gosh, our star is out. We're completely screwed." Like with Cleveland, with LeBron, or a baseball team or a soccer team. So I think definitely props off to them. I think it's like 40 something and 31 right now. So I mean, we'll just have to see. I think 1.5 games out of first place, and to be that without your stars, I think it's really good because once we get our pitching back and get that continuously rotating, I definitely think that would be interesting to see moving forward. But I'm happy for them. But yeah, Astros, if you see me hitting a trash can in my backyard, feel free. I'll be more than happy to be part of the team. You have to hit the trash can at a 45-degree angle, though.
James, how about you with your Angels? I know this weekend they got into a little fisticuffs with the Mariners. So what's your thoughts on your Angels?
Well, they do lead 4-1. Yeah, they do lead 4-1 right now in the bottom of the 8th. They're finishing the 3-game series with the Chicago White Sox. Shout out to Mess Around Dave's ball club. They've been playing a little better. The Angels, the last 10 games are 5-5, 36-41. They're tied for third place with Seattle. Texas, Chris's team has somehow overleaped the Angels. That's how bad the Angels have been. Everybody's up looking at Texas. The Angels are in that wild card mix out of 5 other teams, and probably 3 are realistically going to try to get that last spot.
Are we sure it's the wild card race and not half of the American League East division being in the wild card mix?
Right, everybody except Baltimore. Yeah, and that was expected. I think I actually had stupidly I didn't know the Yankees were going to be this good. I had them, maybe in 4th place, trying to get one of those wild card spots, but no, they've been great. But yeah, Sunday, and I was gonna go to that game, like I told everybody pre-show, but I had to work, and yeah, so the night before on Saturday, Mike Trout gets a ball thrown, near his head. He comes out in the media, basically says, "Hey, if you're gonna try to hit me, hit me lower, in the stomach or on the side, whatever the case is." But the next day came, and I saw originally that the opener of the Angels, not the starter, because they had a spot open in the rotation. At any rate, Austin Warren was trying to hit one of the Mariners and couldn't. He threw behind him, and then that was it. I thought, and then the next time Jesse Winkler came up, it hit him right on the butt, and he kind of overreacted, in my opinion. he had to know like some payback was going to come up, but
Agreed.
that didn't happen.
Mhm.
Then Winkler was getting it from the Angel coaches from the dugout. Winkler went over basically to say hello to them, and all brawl broke out. And I was trying to remember the fines and all that. I'm trying to find it, but
Nevin
Phil
getting 10
Nevin.
games. Phil Nevin getting 10 games to me is absolute baloney.
Yeah.
The thing is, and I mentioned it to someone else the night before, he was caught yelling at the Seattle dugout, and I think MLB kind of got footage of that and said, "Well, hey, there's intent of what we saw from the night before." The next day, so that's why I think he got 10. Winkler got 7 games. Crawford, who threw some punches, 5 games. Julio Rodriguez got 2 games. Anthony Rendon is currently out for the season. Had a cast on his right arm. Slapped that batter of Seattle in slow motion. It looks pretty funny, but the pitcher, actually, Andrew Wantz, not Adam Warren, Andrew Wantz, got 3 games. Some other pitchers who did some stuff there got some games as well. And then basically the whole coaching staff of the Angels got 1 or 2 games.
Even the interpreter got a game, for heaven's sakes.
Right, Manny Del Copo, I'm guessing, got in there and threw some Mariners off, or maybe you've actually swung. There was so much red and blue in there, you couldn't really tell what was going on. And then, unfortunately, the Angel reliever, Archie Bradley, for some reason was not in the bullpen, but in the dugout, and he fractured his elbow. He'll be out, I think, at least 2 months. Falling, trying to get over to get to the incident. So in a way, you always hear, "Oh, you're, it might be good that these brawls happen, but you hope no one gets hurt." And guess what? Angel luck, somebody gets hurt. Yeah. So right now they're trying to win, just trying to stay in the thick of things for that last wild card spot, but it's not looking good. And this will be the 8th straight year that they don't make it, and currently they're 5.5 out of the wild card, and there's 4 teams ahead of them for that 3rd wild card spot. So it's not looking likely this year again. And then one quick thing, the futures of Ohtani and Trout will be up this off season and definitely next off season. So it's something to look forward to. At least, for me, I hope they all stay, but you could say, hey, they're getting sick of nothing happening. You're wasting their primes, and they both will be gone.
Yeah. All right, Chris, give us a little bit catch up on the Rangers.
Yeah, Rangers lost today 2-1, I believe, to the Royals. They're doing pretty good. I mean, had a slow start at the beginning. Just kind of found something towards this stretch of the season, and we're almost to the middle of the season, so anything can happen.
Okay, yeah, and for my Twins, right now, they need bullpen help because they seem to not be able to keep a lead after the 6th inning. If I go do research, and probably can find it, I bet you they got the worst ERA after the 6th inning, so it doesn't seem like they keep the lead. And it'd be nice to have a closer like Rogers on our team that we traded to the Padres, so.
Sorry for Emilio Pagan, my man.
Thank you for that.
No,
for that matter, Chris Paddock.
You warned me on that, so you warned me on that. But we're going to probably go a little bit of extra because there's a couple topics we want to get to. Next, we're going to discuss Freddie Freeman and his little situation, firing his agent. Callan, I'll let you start because, like you and myself, we're big baseball guys. So why don't you go ahead and start with that?
Man, I don't know how to feel about this, honestly, fellas. And this has been a very rough, not divorce, but rough breakup to kind of see this thing happen. Now, for the context here, Freddie Freeman actually fired his agency over the weekend when the Dodgers made their trip to Atlanta. The day, I believe, after Freddie had the welcome back, party, basically.
Yep.
But certainly, I don't recall, guys, if I really truly do not remember a time ever in sports that we have seen an athlete go back to their original market, original place of starting their career, and be that overcome with emotion to the point where now it's become like a firestorm of news of
Yep.
Freeman dumping the agency, Dodger teammates kind of feeling like they're second fiddle all of a sudden now because Freddie really hasn't embraced being in LA yet, according to Clayton Kershaw. And I was thinking about this today, and I don't, like I said, I don't recall ever seeing a time where an athlete had been this emotional, this like depressed, kind of going back to their first market. Maybe Wayne Gretzky when he got dealt to the Kings from the Oilers back in the day when the trade happened, and his press conference was very, very remembered, I think, by all of us who are sports fans, regardless if you watch hockey or not, though. But I think that just watching Freddie's reactions and his body language this past weekend, he looked very uncomfortable and very just down on the dumps. And I think that a lot of it, though, was maybe like that depressed me, but also I think a lot of frustration, internal frustration, because of how his agency just severely dropped the ball. I think that Adam wrote to the group chat for Ison and Coast to Coast today. He was going to be like Chipper Jones and be a brave for life until this offseason hit. And I know that they couldn't come to a pass on the years and stuff like that, but I don't know what this means for his future. And I know this is year one of, I think, a 6-year deal in Los Angeles. I don't know if there's any options on the table for him to maybe opt out of it after a year or 2 or 3 years, but certainly I would hope for his sake, though, that he, kind of snaps out of it a bit, though I know he's on the Dodgers, but I still love and respect Freddie Freeman, though, for the guy he is, the player he is, and stuff like that. I know he's on a rival ball club, but I can, unlike most sports fans, I can put that aside and just think of the guy for how he is, not for what jersey he wears, though. But man, I don't know if anyone out there can think of any other athlete who we've seen though be that like heartbroken after this whole thing. But this will be interesting though, guys, to see how this plays out. Does he just stay self-represented? Does he in fact link up with Scott Boras or some other big name agency out there? And this is also partially, guys, why I was never told to get an agent for my career, because of something like this may be happening. And I'm going on year 14, and I was told the very first day I started college by Chris Torek, my outstanding mentor and teacher at the station I went to. He says, if the agent is asking you for money off the bat, don't sign. And I think that sadly is what Freddie Freeman kind of walked into, is that the agency is more in it for the money. They're not in it for their client. And that's a load of crap and a load of baloney, if you ask me, that they would more so be in it for that than anything else, though. But it will be interesting, I think. But I do think, though, guys, I don't think Clayton Kershaw's remarks were necessary, because I know what he's getting at, though. But that also, I think, could add a bit of a rift, though, between Freeman and his teammates, because I get that he hasn't like fully embraced the Dodger blue and the Dodger organization. But can you at least let the guy bask in the spotlight for a weekend and not jump on his back because of how he was on Friday or on Saturday or on Sunday because of the crowd ovation? I mean, I know that Kershaw's been his whole career has been in LA. But again, you don't know how a guy may in fact react going back to his market for the first time. I mean, if there's anything with me, just in like a very small, retrospect, I went and saw my first WNBA game in 2014, a year after, me and a friend helped the petition campaign to keep the LA basketball team in Los Angeles. And I remember going there, and I had, birthday shout outs from some of the players, and I got to, high five Candace Parker, who's my all-time favorite. And I just remember like coming home that night and then going on my women's basketball podcast and literally just, bawling my eyes out, because it was just like such a cool night of being able to experience that. You don't know how guys will react, though, whether they're going to an event for the first time or what have you. I think, obviously, I think why I love baseball more and more now, Brandon and Chris and John and James and myself, is the videos of people my age or Brandon's age or, all of us here getting a foul ball maybe or catching a home run ball, but finding a young kid and giving them the ball. I mean, if I have one other story I'll add on here about that, is I went to a Padre Dodger game in 2019 in Chavez Ravine. And yes, we were getting heckled all night, but I made some small talk with some friends or some Dodger fans who were Laker fans. We were talking, about the Lakers and talking about stuff like that, just in general. It's, not getting out of control like my friends wanted to because, the Padres are playing the Dodgers in Los Angeles and stuff like that. But we were right by the Padre bullpen. And there was mom and dad and their 2 kids, and they were flapping their gums with my friends, in a good way about the game and stuff. But I flagged down one of our relievers for the Padres, and he threw me a ball, or 2 balls, and I gave one to both the kids and both of the parents, and the kids were absolutely ecstatic about that. So again, you just don't know how players will react their first time coming back. I mean, look at Albert Pujols going back to St. Louis for the first time with the Angels back in 2019, and how that crowd gave him a standing ovation. He's a visiting player, for heaven's sakes. So I think more so that, Kershaw should have kept his mouth shut. I get that it wasn't really a dig, though. But to me, though, that comes across as almost attacking or insulting your teammate because they're going back to a place they called home. Just because you haven't been in that position and having left your market to go somewhere else, though, let the guy breathe. Let the guy enjoy his time in the spotlight. Let him thank the organization. Yes, let him get his ring and whatnot. But don't act like you're second fiddle at this stage. For God's sakes, it's year 1. Let the guy, let the man be the man, be a man and stuff like that is all I'll get at here.
John, how about you? What do you think of Freddie Freeman's issue and firing his agent after his weekend in Atlanta?
Excel Sports Management, screw you. Are you freaking? You have this clown on your management? Because now this is the thing that's going to be, I think, a domino effect, like kind of what Callan's talking about, where now like, okay, well, let's say, this top player in the NFL or baseball or basketball is represented by this agency. Can I trust them? It's going to create a mistrust between athletes and agents now because you see these guys completely screwing over the player. There's a very rare instance of like a Kirk Cousins or another player who is not going to be named because he doesn't count right now. But most of the time, agents, are players going to be able to trust their agents now? Are they going to go the Richard Sherman route where they're going to represent themselves? He got a new contract after he was injured. Frankly, anybody that was criticizing him for that, you're a clown. That's the whole point about sports. In your first city, when you're a young man winning your first championship, that's a big freaking deal. In Excel Sports Management, I hope he's fired because if he did it to Freddie Freeman, I put all of my money, I'll put all of everything I have, which isn't much, that that's not the first player he's done it to. This is the first time he's been caught, and I think that it's not just with Freddie Freeman for Excel Sports Management. I guarantee you, there's been other agents out there that have done the exact same thing. So I have no problem with him. Let him be a man. That's a big deal. It's winning a championship. Like, who are you to piss on somebody for celebrating that? Seriously. For anybody at Excel Sports Management, I highly suggest you leave them because clearly they have no ethics as a organization. They don't.
Not just that, they don't have their priorities in the right order. It should be the client's needs before your own personal needs.
Because the more money
yourself,
the player gets that you represent, you get a little bit more back. I would assume. Because the player gets like 5 years, 200, you get, was it like a percent of that? I'm not sure. But Excel
5%,
Sports,
3%.
If I'm any sports player in any sport, and you're represented by this organization, I would highly suggest you move on from it. Because I guarantee you this is not the first person. This is absolutely disgusting. And how do you hide a final offer? He clearly loved. I think some of us were saying the other night he probably would have taken the hometown discount.
Yes, we talked about that last night.
It's absolutely shameful, and I don't know the agent's name, but shame on you. I hope he's not an agent there. I hope every single athlete he represents, he loses, because now who knows who else he's screwed over from getting a big contract or staying with their hometown. So it's absolutely disgusting, and I hope Excel Sports Management, they lose all their clients because this is just a typical domino effect in terms of relationships, I think, between athletes and their agents, and not just in baseball, but in sports all over.
Yep.
Cat's out of the bag for sure.
Chris, how about you? What do you think of the whole issue?
I mean, it's sad. I think he now has buyer's remorse, so to speak.
Agreed.
I think he regrets the move, and I'm sure now Lamar Jackson's going, this is why I don't have an agent.
Yep. James, what do you think?
Like I was talking pre-show, it kind of reminded me of the Shaquille O'Neal episode with his agent at the time, Leonard Amato, where Shaq was a free agent, and he wanted to stay. At least he said he wanted to, and his agent didn't really tell Shaq about the Magic's offer to match what the Lakers were offering. This reminds me right of it. And for the agent here, I had his name, Casey, closed not to tell Freeman about the final offer the Braves had, and for Freddie to find it out on this weekend in which he was emotionally, involved, it makes it even worse. And I credit Freeman for firing him, because Close, he kind of knew Freddie would take the Atlanta deal over the LA deal. I think this was the agent just being awful in his profession, just like
pettiness.
Yeah, and getting what they want, not what the client wants. As Callan mentioned, the first needs are always the client's needs, and I think the best agents make sure they do that. I would have loved to see Freddie stay, and you could just tell from Friday, that press conference before the game, he was emotionally just drained after the first couple of minutes. He couldn't answer questions. He had the whole family there. And I swore on Sunday night, when it was getting to be late innings, he was at first base and someone was there, and it was in between pitches, or batters, I mean. And I think Freddie was kind of tearing up at first base, playing defense, taking a look around at Trust Park and all that. I don't know if he was, honestly. May have been sweat. It was a hot Georgia night. But you could just tell the ceremony on the field on Friday as well, getting the World Series ring and hugging his former manager, who was there pretty much his whole tenure with the organization from the minor leagues on, who knew Freddie all those years. Man, I as you guys were talking, I was trying to think of someone coming back home like that and being real emotional. And I really can't, because it just seems like, Kawhi Leonard, who never shows emotion. He didn't really show any when he picked up his ring from Toronto when he was a Clipper. So, when Shaq came back to LA for the first time to play the Lakers on Christmas in 2004, there was that whole Kobe Shaq saga. So there was no emotion showed at all. It was, strict business. I really can't think of anything, in this situation. But and then the future, I know Freddie's going to be the professional and just play the contract out and stay a Dodger. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, I'm hoping something gets done where he gets traded back to the Braves somehow and they make what's right. But hey, even though, again, like Callan mentioned, even though he's a Dodger, Freddie Freeman, I still have all the respect.
Absolutely.
Now knowing what the agent did, making this move happen, all that hate that I had for Freddie's decision, it's gone away. And that started on Friday during that press conference and then the ceremony. So that was really tough to see, because I didn't want him to, as a Dodger, and those rumors came up. And I know Adam on the show here, on the network here, was wondering the same thing about his best player, like what was going to happen. And it's just such an unfortunate story. You want sports to go perfect, and business side, it's always something always happens like this. But it's just sad to see, honestly, and the way it affects people in real life.
Yeah. So my thoughts are, I think Commissioner Clowny boy, I can't think of his name right now.
Manfred,
yeah. I think he needs to grow his set, and him and the Players Union and the Dodgers And Freeman, Freeman probably has some kind of legal case that he could possibly bring up. I don't know. But I think they need to step in. And granted, it would open up probably a big can of worms if it happened.
Yeah, I mean, you'd be opening Pandora's box if this happens.
But
Mhm.
I think they need to step in and
Void the contract.
void the contract possibly, or open it up and be like, okay, does he want to go back to LA? Or I'm sorry, does he want to go back to the Braves? What was the Braves' final offer? Compensate the Dodgers somehow. But then it's also going to affect Matt Olson, because now that trade probably would not have happened. So I don't know. I mean, I feel bad for Freeman. It just shows that the agents are out for the money and not. I should say all agents, but most agents, now it's going to look like they're out for the money, not for the players concerned. If I'm Freeman, I probably go with the guy I trust, if anybody, or I just go solo and hire myself a lawyer that looks all over the contracts and I get every offer sent to me. But I think it's pretty shady. I really hope something happens with Freeman and the contract is voided or something. I don't know, but yeah, it would open up a big Pandora's box if they voided the contract, because I mean, I guess if you can prove that the agent withheld offers, then they might have a case overall. But with that being said, Callan wanted to get into one topic, and we typically do talk women's sports, and I know we haven't the last few shows, so I'll let Callan take it away with the WNBA.
Yeah, just congratulations to both Candace Parker last Thursday. Ironically enough, for what I was calling her first true road game against the LA Sparks back at Crypto.com Arena. She dropped her third triple double of her career in the game, and also Brandon, with your links, Mariah Jefferson had the first ever triple double in club history just 24 hours ago against Dallas at Target Center, and that, I think, guys, makes it 3 triple doubles this WNBA season, which I believe is a brand new league record for triple doubles in a season. And now Candace Parker has 2 of the 4 or 3 of the 4 now, I believe. And just wanted to kind of, just, shout those two out, especially though as well with Mariah Jefferson, though, a player who, came out of UConn, was a very, stud player, but, has battled some injury problems, has bounced around from team to team during her career, though. And finally, I think settled in nicely with the Lynx. And of course, Candace Parker, 15th season. And I think just more than anything else, though, and I was actually talking to one of my good friends, Sabrina White, who's a coach at Cal State LA out here on the left coast. We were talking after that game last Thursday when Candace dropped a triple-double. And, I know that I think I said this when they had won the championship last season about, that the breaking point was when Derek Fisher benched her and Neko Ogumake in the 2019 playoffs versus Connecticut, down by 20 points, but they, benched him. They still, though, benching your best players though in a playoff game where it's a make or break game, I think was the straw that broke the camel's back in LA for Candace during her the last part of her career out there. And I think just poetically enough, she does it against the Sparks at Crypto.com Arena in front of the fans that had her back for 13 seasons. And just more of that, I think, was like the cool part. But I think, but also with Mariah Jefferson, though, again, someone who's been battling injuries, been battling, staying on rosters and finding a home with the Lynx, though, and dropping a triple double last night. Just, again, very cool to see, though, as well. And again, I think we've had 4 or 5 now in league history, but I think just shows how hard they are, how hard they are to get, especially at the women's, the women's level, though, as well. But again, congrats to Candace and Mo Jeff on the triple doubles within the last week or within the last 24 hours.
Yeah, no doubt. And, coming from the Lynx fan, I'm actually surprised that's the first one. I figured, Lindsay Whalen would have got one.
Maya, Sylvia,
yeah.
Simone.
So you're right. So before I hand it off to the rest of the guys, Sue Bird becomes the all-time winningest player with 324 wins as the Storm beat the Vegas Aces tonight. So congrats to her. Definitely first ballot Hall of Famer. I don't think anybody that doesn't know who she is would argue that. So, James, let's go into our final thoughts. We are about 15 minutes overdue, but hey, whatever. So, James,
Whatever.
Go ahead.
Whatever. Yeah, my final thought is piggybacking on what you guys were saying. Tonight, Candace Parker became the first WNBA player in history to have 6,000 points, 3,000 rebounds, and 1,500 assists. I think that's very notable. They got the win tonight in Connecticut. The Sky have gone 11-2 this month. They're second to those Las Vegas Aces. And I think we mentioned it before, Callan, on Ison about how the standings have kind of, flip-flopped. Yeah. Those teams that used to be on top are on the bottom, and these teams who gained some players, gained some great coaches like Becky Hammond, are making moves, and it's making the WNBA kind of unpredictable, but maybe it's fun that way with all this movement going on and all these legends who are leaving the game. They're making their way, even though they're making their way out, they're making some milestones. I think that's pretty cool to see.
All right. John, how about you? Your final thoughts there.
I need every single person on this platform that's watching and that's on the show to call in all the ambulances in Texas, the United States, every single place that has a fork, to call an ambulance, because I guarantee you tomorrow night I'm going to have a sports attack, going to have a rant of the decade, of the century. But no, it's good to be on the show. Cleveland, I have as much faith in you as I do of the A's staying in Oakland, so don't screw this up.
All right. Callan, did we get your final thoughts? Yeah. No, go ahead, Callan.
No, I mean, thanks for letting me kind of come on here. I know it was a tad bit late. I was finishing up watching some soccer today locally on TV here. But no, again, thanks for having me on. Again, nice to be able to come back on here. Glad my computer held up here. I've got to change out some batteries before the night's over. But also, I mean, final thoughts more so again, congrats again to, Candace and Mo Jeff, but also, I knew the day was going to come and I didn't want to believe it. But, when Sue Bird announced her retirement, a part of me kind of died, having seen Sue play from the time I was very young, when she was at UConn. And that's my uncle's all-time favorite basketball player, men's or women's, other than Larry Bird, is Sue. And again, they lived back in Connecticut and we always would get gear when they would win the title. It seemed like every single season, and seeing Birdie calling it a career when the year's over, kind of stings a bit though. But again, it's been 20. I think it's been at least 20 years she's been playing in the, all in Seattle, and she's a Seattle icon, Seattle legend. Mm-hmm. Everyone up there loves her, regardless if the Storm are doing great or not. But everyone loves her. They love Lauren Jackson up there. They love their basketball in Seattle, as I'm sure you guys knew when the Sonics were there before they left in 2008. And, James has called her the mayor of Seattle, and she basically is the mayor of Seattle up there. And again, so much love and respect to Sue. Again, she's meant so much, I think, to, not just to me, but I think to every women's basketball fan because of, her playing at UConn. And, she's universally loved across the board, though. And anytime she's at an all-star game, the people go nuts for her and stuff. She's always so giving of her time and her energy to the fans across the whole league. So again, wishing Sue, and I believe also Sylvia Fowles, who also I believe is going to retire, wishing both of them all the best in retirement going forward. And they're not going to leave the game. I feel like that they're going to be working in TV somewhere pretty soon. If not, maybe they'll be coaching somewhere, but they definitely won't be leaving the game behind for good. That's for damn sure. But again, all the best to Big Sil and Birdie in retirement though, when that day does come though. And hopefully it's not, too soon. Hopefully it's, a nice long playoff run for both the Lynx and the Storm as the year goes on.
All right, Chris, give us some final thoughts on Coast to Coast and stuff.
Thanks everyone for watching, tuning in. Speaking of platforms, we're on another platform, Amazon. So you can watch Coast to Coast on Amazon now.
Yeah, C2C has struck a deal with Amazon, got on Amazon, so can't wait to see that, see how that works out. But again, thanks for everybody coming on. My final thoughts is I got to spend the day with my son at AAA Saints, which is affiliated of the
beautiful ballpark, by the way. I forgot to tell you, man. I went there when I was in Minneapolis for the All-Star game, a WNBA All-Star game in 2018. That ballpark, for where it's parked, where it's located, beautiful facility, absolutely gorgeous out there in St. Paul.
Yes, I've been to 5 different ballpark. Let me see. Yeah, 5 different no, 4 different baseball fields, and that's my second favorite. My first favorite is Miller Park, um, but with that being said, had a great day out there. Saints won 6-2.
Beautiful.
Again, congrats to the girls that got the triple doubles. Congrats to Sue Berg for becoming all times win leader. That's definitely something that's accomplished no matter how long you've been in the league. So, with that being said, I want to thank Chris, John, Callan, James. I want to thank our viewers for commenting and watching our show. And we'll see y'all next week on Sportsman. Have a good week.